Until the 20th century, most breweries in the world shut down in the springtime and didn't start brewing again until fall. Why? Wild microorganisms. They flourish in the warm months. Discoveries in refrigeration and microbiology gave breweries control over these creatures. By the early 1900s, brewers had tamed their beers. Yet in a region called the PAYOTTENLAND near Brussels lives a rebel beer style called Lambic. It is so old that we don't even know where the name came from. There, brewers make beer as it has been made for thousands of years. They cool their wort out in the open. These wild microorganisms treat the liquid like a buffet and dive in. The brewers put it in oaken vats to ripen. 1, 2, 3 years later, that beer is ready to blend and drink. Nowhere in the world is beer made like this. Tasting a Lambic is like looking at a snapshot of a moment in time in a specific place. People in the area around Brussels have made wheat beer for a long time. The earliest references date to around 1400. Record keeping was poor then, and many have been lost, so it may be far older. We know that by the 1500s, it was a major part of the local culture. One of the most famous documents is a painting by the Flemish master PIETER from 1567. It shows a wedding feast and a light-colored beer pouring from pitchers. That is Lambic. We even have a recipe for an early version. Dating to 1559, it now resides in the town hall of Halle near Brussels. Sometimes you hear that people didn't understand the role yeast played in the production of beer until very recently. In places like England and Germany, brewers understood that yeast was crucial to the process of fermenting beer, even if they didn't know what it was. They captured it and reused it. Belgians did too in many parts of the country. But around Brussels, they favored the old way of making beer, letting nature take its course. If you visit one of these breweries today, you'll see the cool ship, the flat vessel used to cool the wort. Breweries have made little rooms, often with windows and louvers, to bring the breeze inside. Wild yeast and bacteria, naturally present everywhere, settles on the surface and inoculates the wort. It is the oldest way we know of making beer in the world. In Belgium, Lambic brewing is an ordeal. Brewers employ what they call a turbid mash. It involves a slow process of pulling parts of the grain and water out, heating them up, and then returning them to the main mash. It takes hours longer than the typical process. It has the benefit of preparing the wort for the long process of fermentation, yet it exists for an entirely different reason: the tax man. Once Belgium taxed beer by the size of the mash tun. Brewers, being thrifty, all installed small mash tuns as a result. To get more beer out of them, the brewers developed the convoluted system still used by Lambic brewers. The fact that it made better Lambic was a happy accident.